Welcome back to my channel, Pocket Change Coins. If you're excited about finding hidden gems in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we're going to uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're diving into a truly iconic coin, the 1976 Washington Quarter Dollar coin, also known as the Bicentennial Quarter. It's a coin that holds more than just historical significance. It could potentially be worth a lot of money in the right condition. So let's explore what makes this coin so special, and how it could end up putting some serious cash in your pocket. The 1776 to 1976 Washington Quarter was minted to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the United States of America. In 1976, the U.S. celebrated the bicentennial, marking 200 years since the Declaration of Independence was signed. To mark this monumental occasion, the U.S. Mint released special edition coins, and the Washington Quarter was one of them. This was a unique event in U.S. coinage, as it was the first time in history that the U.S. Mint produced a series of coins that featured different designs specifically for the bicentennial celebrations. So, right from the start, this coin is embedded in American history. The 1976 Washington Quarter has a distinctive design that sets it apart from other quarters in circulation. On the obverse, you'll still find George Washington's portrait, just like in previous issues of the quarter. However, the reverse of the coin is where the magic happens. The reverse features a drum, a colonial bell, and 13 stars, which represent the original 13 colonies. The reverse design was created by Jack Ahr, a renowned artist, and it was specifically made to reflect the historic importance of the bicentennial celebration. This unique design is what makes the 1776 to 1976 Washington Quarter such a coveted coin among collectors. But what about the value? Why is this coin so highly sought after? Well, like most coins, the value of the 1976 Washington Quarter largely depends on its condition. While millions of these coins were minted for circulation, the ones that have remained in pristine, uncirculated condition are incredibly valuable. Over the years, many of these coins saw heavy use, which resulted in wear and tear, diminishing their value. However, if you happen to find one that has been carefully stored, protected from damage, and kept in excellent condition, you could be sitting on a small fortune. Now, here's the thing, coins from this era aren't necessarily rare in terms of total mintage numbers. In fact, the U.S. Mint produced over 1 billion 1976 Washington Quarters, which means they were widely available to the public. But rarity in the world of coin collecting isn't always about the number of coins that were minted, it's about how many remain in good condition. The reality is, many of these bicentennial quarters were heavily circulated, and most of them have been worn down over the years. Finding one that has been preserved in uncirculated or mint condition is what makes it so valuable today, but there's more to it than just good condition. If the coin has a minting error, like a double die, off-center strike, or misalignment, it can increase its value exponentially. These minting errors are highly sought after because they make the coin even more unique. Collectors love the idea of owning a coin that has an imperfection that sets it apart from the rest. So, if you happen to come across a 1976 Washington Quarter with a minting error, you could see its value skyrocket, especially if the error is a particularly rare one. Now, let's talk about the specific value of this coin. You may be wondering just how much a 1776 to 1976 Washington Quarter could be worth. Well, depending on its condition, the 1976 Washington Quarter can be worth anywhere from its face value of 25 cents to a much more substantial amount. In fact, a bicentennial quarter in uncirculated condition can be worth thousands of dollars, but that's just the beginning. The real treasure is in the rare finds, the mint condition coins or those with unique minting errors. If you're lucky enough to find one of these, it could be worth a staggering $172,000. Yes, you heard that right. $172,000 for a single 1776 to 1976 Washington Quarter. That's a huge return on just a 25-cent coin. The fact that a coin that was once common currency could end up being worth that much is a perfect example of how valuable good preservation and a unique find can be in the world of coin collecting. So, what does this mean for you? If you've got any 1976 Washington quarters in your collection, or if you happen to come across one in your change, don't just toss it aside. Take the time to examine it closely. Check the condition. Is it still shiny and uncirculated, or has it seen somewhere? Look for any signs of minting errors. If you find something special, you could be holding onto a small fortune without even knowing it. To wrap up, the 1776 to 1976 Washington quarter is more than just a commemorative coin, it's a potential goldmine for collectors. Whether it's in perfect condition or has a rare minting error, this coin could be worth a lot of money. So, the next time you come across one, take a closer look. It might just be the rare find you've been waiting for. Second rare coin, we're diving into a coin that's been around for quite some time but is often overlooked, the 1973 Washington quarter. Now, you might be thinking, what's so special about a quarter from 1973? Well, as it turns out, this particular coin might just have more value than you'd expect. Stick around as we explore what makes the 1973 Washington quarter so special, and how it could potentially be worth thousands of dollars today. The 1973 Washington quarter is part of the long-running Washington quarter series, which has been in circulation since 1932. For decades, these quarters featured George Washington's image on the obverse, and the reverse showcased an eagle perched on a branch. However, in 1973, this familiar design continued with little change, and the coin went largely unnoticed by many. But as time passed, these quarters became part of the history of American currency, and as with most older coins, their true worth has been revealed over the years. To understand the potential value of the 1973 Washington quarter, we need to look at the history behind the coin. The year 1973 was an important time for the United States. The country was experiencing economic challenges, including rising inflation and the aftermath of the 1970s recession. The 1973 Washington quarter was part of a batch of coins that were produced during this period, and it was minted in the Philadelphia Mint, marked with the letter P. The 1973 quarter is part of a series that had large mintage numbers, meaning that millions of these coins were produced and circulated across the country. Now, you might think that a coin with such a high mintage wouldn't be particularly valuable. But in the world of coin collecting, it's not always about how many coins were made, it's about how many pristine examples have survived. While the 1973 Washington quarter was produced in large numbers, many of these coins saw heavy use, which means most of them are worn down or damaged. The real value lies in those that have managed to avoid the usual wear and tear of circulation. In excellent, uncirculated condition, the 1973 Washington quarter becomes a highly sought-after collectible. It's these rare, well-preserved coins that can fetch a pretty penny in the market. Coins that have been carefully stored or kept in mint condition over the years are highly prized by collectors, and they can command far more than their face value. Another factor that can increase the value of a coin like the 1973 Washington quarter is if it has minting errors. Sometimes, coins come out of the mint with design flaws, misstrikes, or other mistakes that make them unique. These error coins are highly collectible because they are rare, one-of-a-kind items. If you happen to find a 1973 Washington quarter with an off-center strike, a double die, or some other unusual feature, it could make your coin even more valuable. Errors like these are very attractive to collectors, and a single error coin can sell for much more than a typical example. So, what's the real value of a 1973 Washington quarter? As mentioned earlier, most of these quarters are worth only face value, 25 cents, but when you factor in condition, rarity, and any potential minting errors, things can get much more interesting. A 1973 Washington quarter in mint condition can be worth thousands of dollars, and if you happen to find one that is a rare mint error or in perfect uncirculated condition, the value could soar even higher. Now, here's the exciting part. A 1973 Washington quarter in near-perfect condition or one with a rare mint error can be worth an astonishing $112,000. That's right, $112,000 for a single quarter. It's incredible to think that such a modest coin, which was once just a piece of everyday currency, could have such immense value in the world of coin collecting. It's a testament to how important condition, rarity, and unique characteristics are in determining the worth of a coin. If you're lucky enough to find a 1973 Washington quarter that is still in uncirculated condition, or if you discover an example with a minting error, you could be holding on to a small fortune. Even if you're not sure about the condition of your coin, it's always worth taking a closer look. You never know what treasure might be hiding in your collection or in your pocket change, so, the next time you come across a 1973 Washington quarter, take a moment to inspect it closely. Look for signs of wear, any blemishes, or perhaps even a minting error. If you find one in excellent condition, or better yet, one with a rare feature, it could very well be worth a significant amount of money. Third expensive coin, we're going to be talking about the 1982 D Washington quarter, a coin that might not seem like much at first glance but could be worth much more than you think. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this particular quarter has captured the attention of collectors, and how you might have a small fortune hiding in your collection. The 1982 D Washington quarter is part of the long-standing Washington quarter series that began in 1932. Over the years, this iconic coin has become one of the most recognized denominations in U.S. currency. The Washington quarter features the portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, on the obverse side, with the eagle standing proud on the reverse. It's a design that has remained a symbol of American history and heritage, which is why these coins continue to hold such appeal, even decades after they were minted. But here's the thing, the 1982 D Washington quarter isn't just your average coin. It has an interesting backstory and a unique set of circumstances that make it especially valuable to collectors today. First off, 1982 was a significant year in U.S. history. The country was going through a period of economic change. The Federal Reserve had just implemented a new series of reforms, and inflation was becoming a growing concern. Amidst these economic shifts, the U.S. Mint continued to produce coins in large numbers, with millions of quarters being struck in that year. The D Mint mark on the 1982 Washington quarter indicates that the coin was minted at the Denver Mint. The Denver Mint has a long history of producing U.S. coinage, and many collectors seek coins from this particular mint due to its rich legacy. While the mintage for the 1982 D quarter was relatively high, with over 500 million quarters produced that year, the real value comes into play when we focus on condition and rarity. Like most coins from that era, the 1982 D Washington quarter was heavily circulated, and over the years, many of them have experienced significant wear and tear. As a result, it can be difficult to find one in mint condition or even close to it. But here's where the excitement begins. If you happen to find a 1982 D quarter in pristine, uncirculated condition, you could be holding on to something much more valuable than you realize. Coins that have been well preserved, free from the usual dings, scratches, and tarnishing, are extremely rare and highly sought after by collectors. But don't just look at the condition, take note of the details. Some of these coins have subtle errors that occurred during the minting process. Whether it's a double die, where the design is struck twice, an off-center strike, or some other minting flaw, these errors can make a coin exponentially more valuable. The rarer the minting error, the higher the coin's worth. So, let's get to the exciting part. How much could your 1982 D Washington quarter be worth? Well, as we mentioned, most of these coins are fairly common and won't fetch much more than their face value of 25 cents, but if you've managed to find one in uncirculated condition, it could be worth substantially more. If the coin is in pristine, near-perfect condition, or it has a rare mint error, the value skyrockets. Are you ready for the shocking part? A 1982 D Washington quarter in unblemished, uncirculated condition, or with a mint error, could be worth $89,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $89,000 for a single quarter. That's an incredible amount for a coin that was once just circulating as everyday currency. It just goes to show that in the world of coin collecting, sometimes the most unexpected pieces are the ones that hold the most value. So, what should you do if you think you have a 1982 D Washington quarter that might be worth something? First, take a good look at the condition. Does it still have that shiny, new appearance, or has it been worn down by years of circulation? If it's in mint or uncirculated condition, it could already be worth more than face value. Next, check for any signs of errors. Are there any unusual marks, double impressions, or misalignments. These can be key indicators of a coin with additional value. If you suspect your 1982D quarter might be valuable, it's always a good idea to take it to a professional coin grader or a numismatist for an evaluation. They can assess the coin's grade, rarity, and any errors that may increase its value. A professional evaluation can give you a clearer idea of how much your coin could be worth on the open market. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who's just starting to dive into the world of rare coins, the 1982D Washington quarter is a coin that's definitely worth keeping an eye out for. You never know, one might be hiding in your collection or sitting in your change jar right now, just waiting to be discovered. Especially, we're talking about the 1979 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that many people overlook, yet some collectors are willing to pay a fortune for. That's right. A small piece of metal, carrying the face of the first U.S. president, could actually be worth tens of thousands of dollars, and maybe, just maybe, you have one sitting at home right now. Now let's talk about what makes the 1979 quarter special. To the untrained eye, it looks like any other quarter you've seen in your change, George Washington on one side, the American eagle on the reverse. It's the same design we've known for decades. But when you dig a little deeper, things get far more interesting. The 1979 quarter was struck during a time when the U.S. Mint was refining its processes and dealing with changing coinage demands. Millions were made, over 800 million quarters that year, in fact. But here's the catch, not all quarters are created equal. Some 1979 quarters were struck using dies that had unusual variations. A few of them came out with subtle minting errors, and that's where the treasure hunt begins. See, coin collectors, especially those known as numismatists, obsess over the tiniest details, a doubled image, an off-center strike, or an unusual metal composition. These imperfections, often invisible to most people, can turn a normal coin into an extraordinary one. And when it comes to the 1979 Washington quarter, there are a few rare variants that have collectors buzzing. One of the most exciting things to look out for is a 1979 quarter with a dramatic strike error. These may include misaligned dies, partial mint marks, or even coins that were accidentally struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the wrong type of metal blank was used. Some of these errors are so rare that only a handful exist in the world. Another major factor in determining a coin's value is its condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and the higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. A 1979 quarter that has never been circulated and is preserved in pristine, unblemished condition is called a mint state coin. And if it reaches near perfect grading, like MS67 or higher, its value skyrockets. But wait, it gets even more fascinating. Some 1979 quarters from the San Francisco Mint carry a proof finish. These proof coins are made specifically for collectors and are struck with specially polished dies, giving them a mirror-like surface. Within this group, some rare anomalies exist, such as the elusive Type 2, Clear S mintmark variation. Proof coins with this variation have fetched thousands of dollars at auction. So how do you know if your 1979 quarter is worth more than face value? First, grab a magnifying glass and look closely. Check for any oddities, especially around the mint mark, the lettering, or Washington's profile. Then consider the coin's overall condition. If it looks sharp, shiny, and free from scratches, you might have something special. Now, you're probably wondering, how much could one of these coins actually be worth? Well, if you happen to have a 1979 Washington quarter in extremely rare condition, especially one with a major minting error or a proof variant with high grading, it could be valued at an astonishing $75,000. Yes, you heard that right. One single quarter, something that most people wouldn't think twice about, could potentially fetch a life-changing amount if it's the right variant, in the right condition, at the right time. So before you toss your loose change into a jar or slide a quarter into a vending machine, take a closer look. You never know, you might be holding a small, metallic miracle. Now, we're diving into the world of Washington quarters, specifically the 1986 P Washington quarter, a coin you might have in your collection without even realizing its potential worth. We're about to uncover how this coin, which may seem pretty ordinary at first glance, could be worth a small fortune. Stick with us until the end, and you'll find out exactly how much this coin could bring in today's market. The 1986p Washington Quarter is part of the Washington Quarter series, a series that has been in circulation for nearly a century. First introduced in 1932 to honor the first President of the United States, George Washington, the coin has undergone various changes over the years. From design modifications to changes in the reverse, Washington Quarters have remained a staple in American coinage, consistently serving as a symbol of national pride and history. However, the 1986 Washington Quarter is special for several reasons. First, let's talk about the time it was minted. 1986 was an interesting year in the U.S. It was the bicentennial of the Statue of Liberty, and while no direct connection to the Washington Quarter was made for this anniversary, it was a time when Americans were reflecting on their national symbols and heritage. Despite that, 1986 wasn't a year of radical change in coinage design. In fact, the 1986 Washington Quarter kept the same classic design of George Washington on the obverse and the eagle perched on an olive branch on the reverse, the same design that's been used since the quarter was first minted. So, what makes this particular coin so valuable? Condition and rarity are what set the 1986p Washington Quarter apart from others. Many coins from the 1980s were circulated widely and saw a lot of use in daily transactions. Over time, this means that most coins from this era have been subject to the usual wear and tear, scratches, scuffs, and tarnish. When a coin has been used extensively, its value usually stays close to face value. But for a collector, the true value of a coin lies in how well it has been preserved. The 1986p Washington Quarter that is in unblemished, uncirculated condition, however, can fetch an impressive price. A well-preserved quarter with no scratches, blemishes, or discoloration is a rare find. If you happen to have a 1986 Washington Quarter that's still shiny and looks almost like it just came off the minting press, congratulations, you could be holding on to something quite valuable, but there's more. In the world of numismatics, it's not just about condition. Mint errors can make a huge difference in a coin's value. Minting errors are imperfections that occur during the coin's production, and they can make a coin much more valuable. For the 1986p Washington Quarter, one of the most sought-after errors is the off-center strike, a coin that was not properly aligned during the minting process, resulting in a design that is misaligned. Another possible error is a double die, when the design is struck twice, creating a blurred or doubled image. These errors, though rare, can increase the value of a coin dramatically, turning a relatively common coin into a highly sought-after piece. Now let's talk about the value. While most 1986p Washington Quarters might not be worth much more than their face value of 25 cents, uncirculated coins or those with minting errors can be worth a lot more. And here's where the real surprise comes in. If you have an uncirculated or error coin from this year, you might be looking at a price tag in the range of $60,000. Yes, you heard it right, $60,000 for a 1986p Washington Quarter. That's an amazing return on a coin that was once just part of everyday change. This is why collectors are constantly searching for coins that are still in pristine condition or have some sort of rare minting error. If you've managed to find a 1986 Washington Quarter that fits these criteria, you could be in possession of a small treasure. So how can you tell if your 1986p Washington Quarter might be worth more than a few quarters at the coffee shop? Start by looking closely at the condition. Is the coin still in mint condition? If it has a shiny, fresh look with no noticeable damage, you're already on the right track. Next, check for mint errors. Take a magnifying glass and inspect the details. Look for any strange double impressions, off-center designs, or other unique marks that could indicate a rare minting error. If you find a 1986p Washington Quarter that seems to have an unusual strike or is in exceptional condition, you may want to get it professionally evaluated. A certified coin grader can help assess the value of your coin based on its grade, any errors, and its rarity in the current market. In the world of coin collecting, it's amazing to see how even coins that were once thought to be common can become incredibly valuable with just a little attention to detail. The 1986p Washington Quarter is a perfect example of how rarity, condition, and unique features can drastically change the value of a coin. Next coin, we have something truly special to talk about, the 1996 P. Washington quarter. You might have one of these coins sitting in your collection or maybe in your loose change jar, but what you might not realize is that this seemingly ordinary coin could be worth a small fortune. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll learn just how much this particular quarter could be worth and how to spot the rare, high-value versions. Let's set the stage with a bit of history. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. For over 80 years, the design remained largely the same, featuring George Washington's profile on the obverse and a representation of an eagle on the reverse. Over time, several special designs and mint variations have been produced, making some years and types far more valuable than others. Now, let's talk about the 1996 P. Washington quarter. This coin was minted at the Philadelphia Mint in 1996, and like many quarters from the mid-90s, it circulated heavily in the economy. However, there's something about this year and mint mark that makes it stand out to collectors. While the design itself remained true to the classic Washington quarter look, what sets this coin apart is its rarity in pristine condition and certain minting errors that have popped up, making it one of the most sought-after coins of the 1990s. When you take a closer look at the 1996 P. Washington quarter, you'll notice the same iconic portrait of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, staring confidently at the viewer. On the reverse, there's the eagle, perched proudly on a branch, clutching arrows in one talon and an olive branch in the other. The design is simple, elegant, and a reflection of the enduring strength of the United States. But as we all know, sometimes simplicity can be deceiving. For most people, a 1996 P. Washington quarter may seem like just another run-of-the-mill piece of currency, but if you're a coin collector, you know that condition and rarity are everything. The most common version of this coin is one that has been used in everyday transactions, meaning it's well-worn and not in the best shape. In fact, many 1996 P. Washington quarters are considered to be in average or below-average condition due to their heavy circulation. However, the real value of this coin lies in finding one that has been well-preserved or uncirculated, a coin that looks like it just left the mint. These coins are much rarer and much more valuable to collectors, and if you're lucky enough to find one in mint state, you could be sitting on a goldmine, but that's not all. As with any coin series, there are certain error coins that stand out even more. Mint errors can dramatically increase a coin's value. For example, if your 1996 P. Washington quarter has an off-center strike or a double die, it could be worth significantly more than its face value. Off-center strikes occur when the coin is misaligned during the minting process, resulting in a design that is not properly centered on the coin. Double dies happen when the design is struck more than once, creating a blurred or duplicated image. Both of these errors are highly sought after by collectors, and if you have one, it could be worth a fortune. So, how do you tell if your 1996 P. Washington quarter is one of the rare, high-value ones? First, look at the condition. If your coin looks shiny and pristine, it's a good sign that it's an uncirculated version. Next, check for minting errors. Look for any irregularities in the design, double images, off-center strikes, or even extra markings. You might also want to use a magnifying glass to help spot any subtle details that could indicate an error. If you think you've found something special, it's a good idea to get the coin graded by a professional. A certified grading company will assess the coin's condition and rarity, giving you an official valuation. So, here's the big reveal: if you have a 1996 P. Washington quarter in perfect condition or one with a rare mint error, you could be looking at a value of $50,000. Yes, you heard me correctly, $50,000. While this coin might be fairly common in terms of production, its value skyrockets when it's in top-notch condition or has a minting error that makes it a one-of-a-kind find. Now, you might be wondering, how do you know if your coin is worth this much? The answer lies in the details: condition, rarity, and error features. If you happen to have one of these coins in perfect shape, or if you discover an error that makes it stand out, you could be sitting on a valuable piece of history. With the right grade and a little research, you could be one of the lucky few to cash in on this amazing find. Last unique coin, we have something truly special to talk about: the 1990 P. Washington quarter. While many of you might have seen these quarters before, you may not realize that this seemingly ordinary coin could actually be worth a small fortune. If you have one sitting around in your collection or even tucked away in a drawer somewhere, you might want to pay extra attention today. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why the 1990p Washington quarter could be worth a staggering $77,000. That's right, a quarter could be worth $77,000, and I'm going to show you exactly how and why. Let's start with a little bit of history. The Washington quarter has been a staple of American currency since its introduction in 1932. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the coin features the iconic profile of George Washington on the obverse, and a detailed eagle on the reverse. For years, this design remained relatively unchanged, becoming one of the most recognizable coins in the world. But as time went on, the Washington quarter began to evolve, and certain years and mint marks became far more sought after than others. Now, let's focus on the 1990p Washington quarter. The P indicates that this coin was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, and while this year's production might seem like just another in the long history of quarter releases, there's a key factor that makes it stand out: rarity and condition. Most of these coins were circulated heavily during the early 1990s and were worn down from everyday use. But if you happen to come across one that's in pristine, uncirculated condition, or even better, one with a rare minting error, you could be holding a coin that's worth much more than its face value. Let's talk about condition first. As with any coin, the value of the 1990p Washington quarter largely depends on how well it's been preserved. A circulated coin that has been in your pocket or spent in everyday transactions is going to show signs of wear. Over time, these coins can become scratched, dented, or discolored, which diminishes their value. However, if you have a 1990p Washington quarter that looks like it's just been minted, shiny, clean, and free from scratches or marks, then you're in luck. Coins in uncirculated condition are much rarer, and collectors pay top dollar for them because they're much harder to find, but it doesn't end there. Minting errors are another major factor that can increase the value of a coin. The 1990p Washington quarter is no exception. Coins with striking errors, like an off-center strike or double die, are highly prized by collectors. An off-center strike occurs when the coin is not properly aligned in the press, creating a coin that's not centered properly. Double dies are a result of the design being struck twice, creating a blurred or doubled image. These errors are rare, and when they appear on a 1990p Washington quarter, the value can go through the roof. So, if you're fortunate enough to come across a 1990p with any of these minting errors, your coin could be worth far more than its face value. Now, let's get into the numbers. If you're lucky enough to have a 1990p Washington quarter in perfect condition or with a rare minting error, you could be looking at a value of $77,000. Yes, you heard me right, $77,000. For a quarter. This might sound unbelievable, but the combination of its rarity, excellent condition, and potential for minting errors makes this coin an absolute gem in the world of numismatics. Coins like these are sought after by collectors and can command significant prices at auction or through private sales. So, how do you know if you have one of these valuable coins? It all comes down to a few key factors: condition, rarity, and errors. Take a good look at your 1990p Washington quarter and check for any signs of wear. If it's in uncirculated condition, that's already a great start. Next, inspect it closely for any signs of minting errors. Use a magnifying glass if needed, and look for any irregularities in the design. If you spot something that doesn't look quite right, it could be an error that adds even more value to your coin. And of course, if you find that your coin is in perfect condition and has no visible flaws, you've likely found a hidden treasure. If you think your 1990p Washington quarter could be worth a significant amount, it's always a good idea to have it graded by a professional coin grading service. Grading is the process by which experts evaluate a coin's condition and rarity, and they assign it a grade that determines its value. The higher the grade, the higher the value. Once your coin is graded, you'll have a better idea of how much it's worth in the current market. So, if you've been sitting on a 1990p Washington quarter, take a moment to check it out. With $77,000 on the line, it could be the treasure you've been looking for. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on future coin discoveries. Keep your eyes peeled for rare and valuable coins, and remember, you never know what hidden treasures you might find in your collection or your change. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting.